never imagined that the hardest moment of my life would come not from illness, not from surgery, but from the people who raised me. The people who always said family comes first. The people I trusted without question. The day I needed help though. Most, my parents refused to take care of my twins. Not for months, not forever. Just for a few days. And that single word they gave me, no, changed everything. My name is Rachel. I was 32 years old when all of this happened. I was a single mother to twin boys, Ethan and Noah, who were 4 years old at the time. If you've ever been around 4-year-old twins, you know what that means. Noise, energy, questions that never stop. Tiny feet running through the house from sunrise to bedtime. They were exhausting, and they were everything to me. Their father left before they were even born. When I told him I was pregnant with twins, he stared at me like I had just ruined his life. He said he wasn't ready. He said it was too much. He promised he'd help, then slowly disappeared before the boys ever took their first breath. So from the very beginning, it was just me. I learned how to do everything alone. Midnight feedings, double diapers, working during the day and rocking, 2 crying babies at night, how to smile in public while silently falling apart inside. I didn't have a choice. I had 2 little lives depending on me. I worked full-time as a medical billing assistant. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. I budgeted every dollar carefully. Rent, groceries, daycare. There was never extra money, but I made it work. I always made it work. My parents lived 20 minutes away. They were retired, healthy, and comfortable. Growing up, they always told me, if you ever need us, we're here. I believed that. I never asked them to fix my problems. I was proud of handling things on my own. Then my body started warning me that something was wrong. At first, I ignored it. I had sharp pains in my lower abdomen that came and went. I felt dizzy sometimes when I stood up too fast. I was constantly tired, but I told myself that was normal. Every single mom I knew was exhausted. I didn't think much of it, but one night, after I tucked Ethan and Noah into bed, the pain hit me like a knife. I was standing in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, when my legs gave out. I dropped to my knees and grabbed the counter, trying to stay quiet. The pain was deep, sharp, and terrifying. I remember pressing my forehead against the cabinet, shaking, praying it would pass. It didn't. The next morning, I called in sick to work and went straight to the doctor. After blood work, scans, and a long wait in a cold exam room, the doctor finally came in and sat down across from me. His face was calm but serious. Rachel, he said, you need surgery soon. I felt my stomach drop. He explained that I had a condition that couldn't be treated with medication alone. If I waited, it could get worse. The surgery wasn't optional. It was necessary. I nodded while he talked, but my mind wasn't focused on medical terms. It was focused on one thing. My kids. Surgery meant recovery. Recovery meant rest. And rest meant I wouldn't be able to lift 2 4-year-old boys. The doctor told me I would need at least a week of strict recovery. No heavy lifting, no stress. Someone would need to be with me, especially during the first few days. As soon as I walked out of the clinic, I knew exactly who I needed to call. My parents. That evening, while Ethan and Noah were playing on the floor with their toy cars, I called. My mom? I told her I was scared. I told her I didn't know what to do with the boys. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then she sighed. That sounds like a lot, she said. But your twins are very energetic. Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten. I know, I said. That's why I need help. Just for a few days. She said she and my dad weren't as young as they used to be. She said she needed to talk to my father. I waited all night. The next morning, my dad called me. He didn't ask how I was feeling. He didn't ask about the surgery. He said they had talked and decided they couldn't take care of the twins. They're too much responsibility. He said, you chose this life. I felt like I'd been slapped. I didn't choose to get sick. I said quietly. Well, he replied, you'll have to figure something else out. Then he hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, my hands shaking while my sons laughed. in the next room. That night, after I put Ethan and Noah to bed, I cried harder than I ever had before, not just because of the surgery, but because I finally understood something painful to my parents. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was a problem and so were my children. Asterisk, the night before my surgery, the house felt heavy. Not peaceful, not calm. Just heavy. Every creak of the floorboards, every tick of the clock, pressed against my chest like it wanted to remind me of the emptiness around me. I moved through the evening on autopilot. I warmed up dinners, reminded the boys to wash their hands, smiled when they laughed, but my smile felt foreign, stiff, like a mask I couldn't remove. Inside, I was spiraling, imagining every possible worst-case scenario. How would I get through surgery alone? How would I recover without help? What if I fell or couldn't get up? What if something went wrong with the boys while I was in the hospital? The fear was suffocating. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the surgery paperwork in my hands. The instructions stared back at me like a cruel reminder. Do not lift heavy objects. Do not stress. Have someone with you for at least 48 hours. Do not lift heavy objects. I laughed quietly. Not anyone? I reached for my phone, scrolling through contacts. Friends from work. Old classmates. Parents from the preschool. Everyone had lives, obligations, families, and schedules that didn't leave room for me. I sent a few messages anyway, hoping for a miracle. Another said they were busy. I didn't blame them. I didn't even have the energy. I walked into the boys' room, looking at their sleeping faces. Ethan was sprawled across his pillow, one arm flung over Noah. Noah clutched his stuffed dinosaur tightly, his mouth slightly open. They looked so peaceful, so innocent, so unaware that the world I relied on had turned its back on me. I brushed their hair back gently. I whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm trying." Then I heard a knock at the front door. No one ever came this. Ella T? I froze. My heart raced. My hands shook as I walked slowly to the door. It was my grandfather. Grandpa Hal, my mom's father. Tall, slightly hunched, with kind eyes that seemed to notice everything. He smelled of old books and peppermint, familiar and safe. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. "I hope I'm not too late." I didn't answer. I just hugged him, letting myself feel a sense of safety I hadn't felt in days. "I heard what happened," he said quietly once we sat down. "You talked to Mom?" I asked, my throat tight. He nodded. "She called me earlier. She sounded. I don't know what I'm going to do." He looked at me for a long moment, serious but gentle. "Rachel," he said, "family doesn't turn its back when someone is sick." Tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. He didn't rush me. He let me cry. Finally, he said, "I can stay here tonight, keep you company." "You don't have to," I whispered. "I want to," he replied. "And tomorrow we'll figure it out." But enough to survive the next day. Morning came too fast. Grandpa was up before me, making tea in the kitchen. "Sit," he said when I tried to help. "Doctor's orders?" I smiled weakly. The boys came into the kitchen, rubbing their eyes. "Mommy? Where are you going today?" Noah asked softly. I knelt carefully in front of them. "I have to see a doctor," I said. "Grandpa Hal is going to stay with you for a bit." Ethan grinned. "Cool. Can we have pancakes?" Grandpa chuckled. "Already on it." Watching them laugh together almost broke me. At the hospital, everything felt cold and rushed. Nurses spoke kindly but efficiently. Forms were signed. IVs were placed. Before they wheeled me into surgery, Grandpa squeezed my hand. "You're not alone," he said, "no matter what your parents think." I held on to those words as the anesthesia pulled me under. When I woke, pain radiated through my body like fire. My throat was dry, my head pounding. The first thing I asked was about my kids. "They're fine," the nurse said. "Grandpa has been calling every hour." Tears slid down my cheeks. Relief mixed with guilt. Later that afternoon, Grandpa came into my room, holding a small bag. I brought pictures. he said. "The boys wanted you to see." "They made pancakes," he said. "Mostly made a mess." I laughed, then winced in pain. As the hours passed, I realized something. Grandpa was doing everything my parents refused to do. And he wasn't complaining. That evening, my mom finally called. So she said flatly, "How did it go?" "It went fine," I replied. "And the twins?" "They're with Grandpa Hal," I said. There was a pause. "Well, that's good, I guess," she said. I didn't respond. What she didn't know yet was that Grandpa Hal had made a decision. And soon everyone would hear it. Even sitting up made my muscles ache, and each step across the room felt like climbing a mountain. My body ached, but it wasn't just physical pain that weighed me down. It was the anxiety of knowing I had 2 little boys depending on me, and no one was stepping in to help except one person. Grandpa Hal. He stayed with us the entire time. He slept on the couch in the living room, woke up early to make breakfast for the boys, dressed them, and handled their messes with a patience I didn't think was possible. When Ethan spilled juice on the floor, Grandpa didn't yell. He just grabbed a towel and said, "Happens to the best of us." Grandpa sat on the floor with him, letting him cry and explaining gently that mismatched socks were nothing to worry about. I watched from my bed and felt a mix of awe and shame. This was the help my parents had refused. On the 3rd day, my mother showed up. She didn't call ahead. She just appeared at the door, and my heart sank. Grandpa opened it before I could. "Hi, Dad," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Grandpa stepped aside without a word. My mother walked through the house, inspecting everything, her eyes sharp and judging. "Well," she said finally, "it looks fine." I didn't respond. She looked at me as if noticing my weakened state for the first time. "You look tired," she said. "I had surgery," I replied. She pursed her lips. "I just came to check in," she said. "Make sure everything is under control." Before I could respond, Grandpa spoke, his voice calm but firm. "It is," he said. "I'm here." She glanced at him, surprised by his tone. "You didn't have to," she said. "Yes, I did," he replied. Meeting her gaze steadily, the room went quiet. Over the next week, my parents kept their distance. Their texts were short. Their calls were brief. There were no offers to help, no concern for the boys' well-being. Every day, I watched Grandpa rise to the occasion, doing what should have been theirs without complaint. One afternoon, while the boys napped, Grandpa sat across from me with a serious expression. "Rachel," he said, "I need to ask you something." "What?" I asked, bracing myself. "Did your parents ever help you after the twins were born?" I hesitated. "Not really," I admitted. "They said I needed to learn responsibility." He nodded slowly. "I thought so. And now, I think it's time we had a family conversation." My stomach tightened. "What kind of conversation?" I asked. "The honest kind," he said. That weekend, Grandpa invited my parents over for dinner. They had no idea why they were coming. Grandpa noticed but didn't comment. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "remember this, you did nothing wrong." When my parents arrived, the tension in the air was almost unbearable. They avoided looking at me, speaking in polite, clipped tones. Dinner was stiff, with shallow conversation and forced smiles. He said calmly. They looked up, startled. "You refused to care for your grandchildren. When your daughter needed surgery," he continued. My mother stiffened. "Yes, and now I'm going to share mine." He turned to me. "Rachel has carried more weight than you know, and she never asked for it." My chest tightened as he spoke. Then he turned back to them. "When family needs help, we show up." My father shifted uncomfortably. "This is not your place," he muttered. "It became my place when you walked away." Grandpa said calmly. The twins stirred in the other room, their soft breathing a reminder of what was at stake. Grandpa's voice softened, but his words cut deep. "Do you know what your daughter said to me the night before surgery?" He asked. My parents didn't answer. "She said she was scared," he continued. "Not of the surgery, of being alone. My mother looked away. That's when I realized something, he said. You've been distant for a long time. My dad scoffed. We call. We check in. Yes, Grandpa replied. But you don't show up. The difference hung in the room like a weight. Then Grandpa reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. What's that? My mom asked sharply. He placed it on the table. It's a copy of my will, he said. My heart stopped. My parents stared at the envelope. My father leaned in. This is inappropriate, he muttered. No, Grandpa said. What's inappropriate is refusing your grandchildren when your child is recovering from surgery. He slid the envelope closer to them. I've made changes, he said. My mother's hands trembled as she opened it. Are the people who matter. My parents looked at me. For the first time, there was something different in their eyes, not anger. Ethan asked softly. I held my arms open, my heart full of relief and love. Grandpa stood. This conversation is over, he said. Rachel needs peace. My parents left. After the door closed, I broke down crying tears of relief, exhaustion, and gratitude. Grandpa wrapped me in a hug. You are not alone, he whispered. And for the first time, I truly believed it. Asterisk the days after that dinner were quieter than I expected, but it was a different kind of quiet. It wasn't heavy or suffocating like before. It felt lighter, steady, almost like the calm after a storm finally passes. My parents didn't call, not the next day, not the day after that. And for the first time, their absence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like space to heal, space to breathe. My body was slowly recovering. Every morning I could. The heaviness in my chest eased just a fraction with each passing day. Grandpa Hal stayed with us until the doctor cleared me to be on my own. He never acted like a hero. He just kept showing up, quietly, steadfastly, until I could handle my life again. One afternoon, as the boys were drawing on the living room floor, I finally asked him the question that had been sitting in my chest. Did you really change your will because of us? I changed it because of truth. I swallowed hard. They're children. My parents, I said. He nodded. And you're my granddaughter, and those boys are my great-grandsons. That was all he said. 2 weeks later, my mom finally called. Her voice was cautious, careful, different than before. Rachel, she said, we need to talk. I took a deep breath. I'm listening, I said. There was a pause. We didn't realize how serious everything was, she said. Your father and I, we may have made mistakes. I closed my eyes, letting the truth hang in the air. Mistakes aren't what hurt, I said quietly. Being dismissed did. She didn't argue. We want to see the twins, she said, softly. I looked at Ethan and Noah. She asked quietly. Boundaries, I replied. And honesty. She agreed, and when my parents finally came over, it wasn't dramatic. Just awkward politeness. They watched Grandpa interact with the twins patient, present, fully engaged, and for the first time, I saw something else on their faces, understanding. Not complete, not perfect, but real. After they left, Grandpa prepared to go home. You don't have to, I said. I know, he replied. He hugged me tightly. Remember this, he said. Family isn't about obligation. It's about presence. That night, after the boys were asleep, I sat alone in the quiet living room, thinking about everything that had happened. The surgery, the fear, the rejection, and the man who stood up when everyone else walked away. I didn't get revenge. I got clarity. And sometimes that is far more powerful because the truth is simple. And when they do, believe them. I finally understood that family isn't about just sharing a last name. It isn't about following traditions or living up to expectations. It's about showing up, being present when it matters, loving not because it's convenient, but because it's necessary. And when people don't, it is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of theirs. I looked around at my home, at Ethan and Noah, laughing as they colored outside the lines and at the empty space where Grandpa had sat, but would always be there in spirit. I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time, I felt the future was mine to shape, full of presence, honesty, and love, because sometimes the greatest acts of family aren't grand gestures. They're quiet, steady, reliable. And sometimes the greatest gift isn't forgiveness. It's clarity. It's knowing who will stand by you and holding them close. And that night, as I watched my boys sleep peacefully, I knew without a doubt I wasn't alone, and I never would be again.